TomoNews presents Nuclear Power. China's going nuclear. Beijing is doubling down on nuclear energy development in an effort to pump up power in the South China Sea. China recently announced plans to build a floating nuclear power plant over the next 5 years. Some 20 floating stations are expected to be built among the numerous islands it lays claim to in the South China Sea. Currently, power in the Spratlys and Paracels is produced by diesel generators, which are neither efficient nor environmentally friendly. With a floating nuclear platform, China hopes to provide a stable source of power to residents and troops based on the disputed islands. China also aims to promote offshore gas and oil extraction in the area. Floating power stations are believed to be less prone to natural disasters. Emergencies like a melting core could be prevented by simply pumping in cooling seawater. Developing nuclear power will also help cut down carbon dioxide and pollutant emissions. Ultimately, China wants its nuclear power capacity to reach 58 million kilowatts by 2020. Research on the core technologies has already been carried out. Chinese ally Russia is developing a similar facility for Arctic waters, and China is seeking cooperation to speed up their plans. Radiation still a concern decades after Chernobyl blast. 30 years ago today, an explosion tore through a reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, Ukraine. It sent deadly clouds of atomic material into the air and is considered to be the world's worst nuclear accident. Months after the Chernobyl blast in 1986, a concrete sarcophagus was built over Reactor 4 to contain the radioactive material inside. Years later, radiation is still present. Recent findings show milk from nearby farms contain a radioactive isotope 10 times higher than the allowed limit. The sarcophagus has since deteriorated, and engineers are currently building a giant stainless steel arch, more than 350 feet high and 500 feet long, to replace it. Called the New Safe Confinement, the 36,000-ton structure will be wheeled in place upon completion in 2017, effectively sealing the sarcophagus. Giant hover cranes in the arch will then disassemble and clean up the exploded reactor contained inside. More than 40 countries donated funding for the arch, which is expected to prevent further leaks for the next 100 years.
Transformer explosion shuts down New York power plant. The failure of a transformer at a New York nuclear power plant caused a fire that triggered the automatic shutdown of a reactor over the weekend. A transformer at the Indian Point nuclear power plant in Buchanan, New York, exploded Saturday evening, possibly following an electrical short. The plant was stable, however, as the failed transformer was located in the non-nuclear portion of the plant, some 600 feet away from the reactor building, which is reinforced by walls between 3.5 and 4.5 feet thick. The ensuing fire was put out by the plant's sprinkler system, as well as an on-site fire brigade that used what New York Governor Andrew Cuomo described as a special kind of foam. The governor has voiced concerns that both the foam and oil leaking from the transformer could seep into the Hudson River. Entergy, which operates the facility, said the incident presented no danger to the public. The Indian Point nuclear power plant produces about a quarter of both New York City's and Westchester's electricity, according to the plant's website.
South Korea nuclear operator hacked. Non-critical data leaked. In response to a recent hacking attack on South Korea nuclear operator Korea Hydro Nuclear Power, the operator conducted a 2-day safety drill at its plants throughout the country on Monday. The operator said the attack compromised only non-critical information. Computer systems at Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, KHNP, have been attacked by hackers. It is not yet clear who coordinated the attack, but a Twitter user who described himself to be the chairman of a Hawaii-based nuclear group claimed responsibility. The cyber attack leaked personal information of 10,000 KHNP workers, designs of 2 reactors, electricity flowcharts, and other data. KHNP said the attack did not affect the operations of its nuclear facilities. A subsidiary of state-run Korea Electric Power Corporation, KHNP runs a total of 23 nuclear reactors throughout South Korea, providing a third of South Korea's electricity. The attack came after North Korea allegedly hacked Sony Pictures over the portrayal of Kim Jong-un in the canceled movie The Interview.
Miami's nuclear power plant is leaking radioactive material. A nuclear power plant is leaking radioactive material into the water near Miami, according to a recent study published by the Miami-Dade County. Turkey Point Nuclear Power Plant, located in Homestead just south of Miami, started serving the area in the early 1970s. It uses an extensive canal network for its cooling water purposes. The cooling canals began running dangerously high after the plant's expansion to increase power output by 15% in 2013. The situation worsened in the following year, when temperatures spiked after a summer drought hit it. The company somehow obtained permission to operate the canals at 104 degrees, the hottest in the nation. The company then began to cool down the canals by pumping huge amounts of fresh water from a nearby canal and from the Floridian aquifer. However, the hot salty water then leaked back into the Biscayne Bay, with water sampling in December and January showing tritium levels at the bottom of the bay are up to 215 times higher than normal in ocean water. Meanwhile, Florida Power and Light Company insisted that it has collected its own data on impacts to Biscayne Bay and has not seen any indication of a large pollution problem.
China to build nuclear reactor in UK after Hinkley deal approved. China's investment in the approved Hinkley Point nuclear power station project may mean it could build its own nuclear reactor in the UK. China is hoping to build its Hualong 1 reactor in Bradwell, Essex. Hualong 1 is a third-generation pressurized water reactor, which is designed to last 60 years. A typical pressurized water reactor contains uranium-235. When the isotope's atoms are split, the energy released boils water and creates steam, which then helps rotate turbine blades to generate electricity. The reactor building is protected by 2 layers of walls. The inner wall contains a steel lining, while the outer wall is designed to be strong enough to withstand the impact of a large commercial plane crash. China aims to export its nuclear reactors worldwide by selling its Hualong 1 reactor in Pakistan, Argentina, and Romania.
Japan's Sendai nuclear power plant gets fuel as it gears up to go back online. A nuclear power plant in Sendai operated by Kyushu Electric Power Company is set to go back online in mid-August. 157 fuel assemblies are being loaded into the number 1 reactor. After the Fukushima nuclear disaster in March of 2011, the reactor has been inactive since May of the same year for safety checks. The safety conditions of some of the plant equipment may not be up to standards due to the facility being offline for 4 years. Local residents have expressed strong opposition to restarting the plant. Officials estimate the facility will be operational again starting in mid-August. However, due to a history of volcanic activity in the area, there are still some doubts regarding the safety of the plant. It was probably a good idea to stop firing nukes into space. Decades after they exploded in space, the true effect on Earth of Cold War nuclear bomb tests is only now beginning to be fully understood by scientists. According to recently declassified documents, nuclear weapons tests conducted by the United States and Soviet Union between 1958 and 1962 had an impact on space weather. Nuclear bombs detonated in space created geomagnetic disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field. They also caused electric fields to form on the planet's surface. Some tests even created a layer of charged particles held in place by the Earth's magnetic field called radiation belts. These man-made phenomena caused an aurora to form over the equator rather than at the poles. They also disrupted satellites and caused electrical currents that damaged power grids. Thankfully, America and the USSR stopped chucking nuclear bombs into space more than 50 years ago. According to NASA, this information about man's effect on space weather in the 1960s can hopefully help us better understand what's going on around our planet today.
Iran's 40-megawatt heavy water nuclear reactor is set to come online next year. Iran says it needs the reactor to produce isotopes for medical and agricultural use. But critics say it could be used to produce plutonium for weapons. Water fills the heavy water nuclear reactor's core, acting as a coolant and moderator. The core contains fuel rods, composed of radioactive natural uranium ceramic pellets. Unlike a normal reactor, heavy water reactors use water with an increased amount of the hydrogen isotope, deuterium. Turbines or a pressurizer raise the water pressure. Control rods made of a substance which absorbs radiation stabilize the reaction speed and prevent overheating. The nuclear reaction produces plutonium and isotopes which have niche uses in medicine and agriculture. The plutonium can also be used for weapons. Israel, the United States and others are suspicious of Iran's claims its nuclear program is intended for non-military purposes only.
Satellite imagery suggests North Korea has restarted a research reactor capable of producing plutonium for use in nuclear weapons, which can be reprocessed from spent nuclear fuel. The reprocessing of spent fuel using the Purex method involves using nitric acid to chemically extract uranium-235 and plutonium from spent fuel rods. When irradiated fuel is dissolved, fine insoluble solids are removed. Solvents are then used to separate the uranium and plutonium from other fission products and minor actinides. The uranium is removed and can be disposed of as low-level waste, while the plutonium can be used to manufacture weapons. The U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies says the North Korean reactor may be nearing operation. Scientists at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory's National Ignition Facility in California have announced a breakthrough in the development of nuclear fusion, promising an inexhaustible supply of energy. The fusion process uses a fuel capsule placed inside a tiny gold case called a Horalm, which is bombarded by 192 laser beams. The temperature inside the Horalm is lowered to more than 400 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit to facilitate the fusion reaction. The fuel capsule contained 2 hydrogen isotopes, deuterium and tritium. After laser beams were released, the gold wall of the Horalm converts them into X-rays. At high temperatures, the nuclei of the deuterium and tritium are fused together and alpha particles are produced, generating energy. The milestone that the scientists achieved is known as ignition, where the energy produced was greater than the amount of energy put in.